Very good evening. Jai Shri Krishna Guru. Thank you for joining the Bhagavad Gita Satsang, the way of life as described by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha, Om Shri Saraswataya Namaha, Om Shri Guru Dattatre Namaha, Om Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. We'll be continuing from chapter 5, that is the Yoga of Action and Knowledge. And we will be learning about Jnana Yoga or the Yoga of Knowledge as described by Lord Shri Krishna. So we have completed till verse 20. So we'll start from chapter 5 verse 21. He whose mind remains unattached to sense objects derives through meditation the sattvika joy which dwells in the mind. Then that yogi, having completely identified himself through meditation with Brahma, enjoys eternal bliss. Wow, this is again very, very powerful. What is Lord Shri Krishna telling Arjuna? He whose mind remains unattached to sense objects. What is the most important thing we need to achieve is detachment. How do we not let the mind get attached to the sense objects? See, in chapter 2, we have already learned that when the senses come in contact with the sense objects, the mind starts dwelling in that. Once the mind starts dwelling in that, from that springs up attachment. From attachment comes up desires. So what is the most important thing one needs to achieve here? The most important thing that we have to achieve here is detachment. How do you get detached? I'll tell you a very simple example. Something that happened with me, this morning. I was going for a walk and I came across a place. I was walking towards, a house. And that house belonged to someone that I know of. And this person and I have not had, good terms in certain business discussions. At that time, my mind immediately latched on to that object, that individual, and started giving, thoughts about why should a person be mean, or why do somebody speak in certain manner. And these thoughts led me into some sort of an anger, not just anger. And I was also remembering at that time the teachings of my Guruji. And he was saying that today, people don't know how to be nice to everybody or how to live a good life. They don't know how to even behave or communicate. The goodness has completely gone out of the window. So an individual can go and destroy something because of that little ego that exists in a person, saying that, look, how can that person talk to me or, behave with me? So everybody has their own ego, and all these, situations stem about from ego alone. And then suddenly a fear came, a sort of a fear, because this is what I remembered. And then my mind threw up a fear. Fear is, oh my God, what is going to happen? Is this person going to do something bad? And things like that. The thoughts just come for no rhyme or reason, because that's what the mind loves to do. What it did, the moment it came in contact with that sense object, just the thought of that, oh, this house belongs to someone else. Somebody I know of and with whom I have not had a good association, and that led to these negative thoughts, and from that it came up with a fear factor. And I was like, for a moment, what the hell is happening right now? What is happening? Why is my mind throwing those kinds of thoughts? That was the first question to myself. Why should anyone fear anybody in this world? Because the only time you will fear is if you have done wrong, if you have committed anything, your crime, or you've spoken untruth, or any of those kind of things, right? But when you are truthful and on the path, following the path of the divine Lord, following a righteous path and living a truthful life, there is no need to fear anything or anybody in this world. Then I recollected a very beautiful lesson which Lord Dattatreya, that is my Guruji's Gurudev, had imparted to me way back in time. And he said, one very interesting lesson and a teaching which is very important at all points in time. It reminded me what he said. He said, everything happens for the good alone. why the situation has happened, why those, kind of unfavorable situations have come about, we don't know in life. We think something bad has happened, or that the way things have, the way things have happened is not favorable, or it is not good. We always judge by good and bad, favorable and unfavorable. But at that time, the only thought that came to me was, everything happens for the good. There must be something good which is going to come out of it, and that is why that has happened. Why am I thinking whatever that event was is a bad thing? And the moment this knowledge literally lit up at that moment in time, that fear vanished and my mind became crystal clear. So I said, why am I bothered? What anyone can do? Because I've not done anything wrong with the person or to anybody. So why is my mind thinking like that? Because it is the mind's nature and it is the mind's job to do that. To continuously dwell or latch on to subjects, objects, and try to, pull you down. It's going to make you get attached to that object. That is the nature of the mind. So what is Lord Shri Krishna teaching here to Arjuna? Don't dwell in the sense object. Most important, never allow your mind to dwell in any sense objects. It could be people, it could be, you want to earn something, you want to eat something, you aspire to travel. Whatever that might be, never allow your mind to dwell in any objects, because the moment you dwell in that sense object, your mind gets attached to it. And imagine, it just happened like that to me, because just the sight of some object, the mind latched onto that, and then it started trying to give, stories about that, and then thoughts after thoughts after thoughts. Why? Even before I could realize, the mind already started dwelling in the sense object. See, these are all practical experiences, because the application of knowledge has to happen. What is Lord Shri Krishna teaching Arjuna? He's giving him the most esoteric knowledge of all times. And he's telling Arjuna, having this knowledge, you have to cut asunder the ignorance. And when you understand the truth, then you're going to be able to do your swadharma, following the path of dharma, which is the righteousness, serving the purpose of your human existence, following the path of righteousness. And which means you're not going to bother about the end result, whether you're going to succeed, whether you're going to fail, whether you're going to win or lose the battle. It's none of anybody's concern. Your duty or your right is to work alone, to fight alone. So that is the ability which the knowledge provides, and it makes you become detached. And you're going to live in the here and the now, the moment. This moment is more important, because how you live now, you make those kind of, impact in the future. Your future is also determined in the way of life you lead now. So eating in a healthy manner, living a disciplined life, most important, living a God-pleasing life is extremely important. But if we are going to constantly live in our mind, where is the question of our entire well-being? The well-being doesn't exist. You know why that it doesn't exist? Because we have gone into that mind state. It's a very detrimental thing to happen. And that is why, if you have seen people, those who don't have the control over the mind, their mind keeps, throwing them from one object to the other. And then what does it do? It also creates sicknesses that is not there. That is why all these old people draw on sickness on themselves. They invite that sickness, because that's how the mind behaves. They don't have control. So what is that we need to give them? It's about love. You have to show compassion. You have to give them that love, so that their mind is not carried away in that sense object. It is not attached to that sense object. So that is why we have to always be in oneness with the Divine Lord. But first, having control your mind. And the control of the mind happens when you are not going to let your mind get attached to the sense object when the senses come in contact with them. And this is a very important lesson. So this morning I experienced what my Guruji actually is teaching, what Lord Shri Krishna is imparting to Arjuna. Please remember, these lessons are very powerful. They're very difficult to imbibe. You know why? Because our mind is so strong that we have never put that effort, because that's called self-effort. See, Lord Shri Krishna also used a very important word in in chapter 2. He's saying, Arjuna, you have to strive to practice. See the word strive and practice. So we don't practice, neither we strive for it. This, today my Guruji was, telling me something, and at that time when I was explaining to him what happened, he said something very powerful. See, you need to first have the burning desire to be on the path of spiritual. It's not just going to come and fall on your lap. The Guru is actually going to test you out to see how much fire you have in you to wanting to go after that one goal of yours, because that is the highest goal anybody can focus on in life, right? So the Guruji also, see, a lot of people come and meet the Guruji. Everybody says, oh, I want to be in spiritual, I want to attain liberation. A lot of things people say. It's very easy said than done. But what they don't want to do is put in the effort. Because it's all about the effort. How much effort are you willing to put? How much are you going to work really hard towards attaining that God realization? And how much do you really care about God? Because God is not just given, in a platter. The reason is because God is something you have to earn. You have to crave for. It's a beautiful experience. See, like the way your mind craves for these sense objects, right? It's the moment the senses come in contact with that, it's craving. What does it create? Ultimately, it traps you by creating desires. That desires is what is the root cause of all our miseries, because it is insatiable and you can't fulfill ever. If you fulfill one, then the next is already it's in the queue. It's waiting. So there is no redemption from it. You're always going to be bound. You're in bondage to eternity. So here, it is all about experiencing that contentment with what you have. And then the goal is about attaining the Divine Lord. See, even if you say my desire is to attain the Divine Lord, it is still a desire. But at least that's a good desire to have. The good desire is that, okay, my craving is that I desire to attain Him. But the word desire is though wrong. I wouldn't say yes and no, but at least you're not desiring for satisfying your palate or satisfying your the sense pleasures. That is not what you're desiring. You're desiring to attain the highest goal, which is God realization. So that's still a favorable desire to have. Likewise, so the Lord is always telling, I want to see how much I mean in your life. Do you want me or do you want my Maya? That's exactly what Lord Sri Krishna also did, right? When Arjuna and Duryodhana both went to the Lord, he said, Duryodhana, I saw you first, because Arjuna was sitting, besides where Krishna was lying down, near his head. So Duryodhana was sitting at his feet. And because the Lord saw Duryodhana first, he gave him that opportunity. So saying, Duryodhana, tell me what you want. Do you want my army or me? But Duryodhana chose his army, whereas Arjuna chose Lord Sri Krishna. So when you choose the Divine Lord versus Maya, his army is known as Maya, all the material worldly things. Please remember, that has no use. It will anyway go away. It's anyway going to be destroyed. But what is eternally there with you is the Divine Lord. His grace, His love, everything of His. He's going to be with you. So this is the truth you need to understand. So the Guru is always going to test you out, seeing how much do you want God, how much are you really craving for, and how much effort are you going to put to attaining that God realization. He's going to test you in so many ways to see where you actually stand. And in that, my Guruji has written, so I want to see the burning fire. Like we, burn for wanting the material wealth, benefits, all that in the world, right? We want to enjoy good food, we want to travel, we want to, do a lot of things. We want to buy, we want to own, too many things we have desires. Likewise, do you have that kind of a passion for Lord, that kind of a love for Lord? It's not because God gives you, then you love Him, right? It's because you just want Him. That's the ultimate goal you want in life. So this is what my Guruji was telling. And then he said, the teacher is never, like example yesterday, in the last satsang, I was also telling, don't Lord Sri Krishna is frustrated in teaching Arjuna the same lesson over and over again. Yet, he's even in when the Lord has already taught all that lesson that is required to be known in chapter 2 itself, why is Arjuna not understanding? And this is what I understood when my Guruji posted a very beautiful update on Facebook where he mentioned, if a disciple or people behave badly, or they do, they fail, in their exams or test, or if they're not learning, does it mean the guru is bad? No, it's not the guru who is bad. I'm talking about the real gurus here. I'm not talking about the celebrity gurus at all. I'm making it very clear. So the real masters teach, like here Lord Shri Krishna is putting all the effort and teaching Arjuna. You know why? Because Lord Shri Krishna understands one very powerful truth, and that is our mind is incapable of learning. I wouldn't say it's incapable, but it takes time. You know why? Because we're so used to living in a certain way. We're so used to believing in certain things. And when you've been given the knowledge, suddenly your mind doesn't know what to do. It's reacting, it's responding in weird ways because it's unable to understand. And all the time it is asking for proof of the pudding. That's again the biggest challenge. So every single time when you are being taught, you experience that knowledge, whatever you learn. And until you don't experience, then what is the point in learning? So the experience of knowledge has to happen. See, God can be sitting in front of you. Till the time you don't have the faith, you don't make effort to seek God, even if the God is sitting in front of you, you're not going to experience that truth. Simply because you are not putting in effort. See, a lot of people come and meet my Guruji, but how many will see the truth over there? Lord is standing in front of them. Do you think they will be able to see it? No, they can't, because they're covered with what is called ignorance. They don't have that absolute faith. Let me tell you something. Just because you fall at my Guruji's feet, or you say, oh, I'm a greatest devotee, you're everything, you're my father, it doesn't mean they're just you're mouthing something. Does it even translate into any action? Falling at my Guruji's feet, everybody does. And please remember, you're not doing a big favor by falling at my Guruji's feet. Because he's the Lord himself, and that is the other you do. And people also know that when you fall at the divine Guru's feet, he accepts your karma. See, people have an ulterior motive. Oh, my karma should go away, so I will fall. That's how your mind talks. I'm not saying that everybody does it in that way, but that's how your mind talks. Please remember, the most important thing you need to overcome or control is your mind. But how do you do that? You have to do it by purification. And this is how you will be able to purify. That purification is what Lord Shri Krishna is teaching to Arjuna. So you have to control your mind. You have to revere God. So what is the most important thing? Reverence. You're not falling because you want to put your sins into the feet of the Guru or the God, but you're really falling at his feet because you revere him. That reverence is what is important. There needs to be truth. And since that purity, till the time that purity of your heart and the mind doesn't work, the surrender can never happen. So how will you even experience God? The Parabrahma is not pleased with you. Please remember, the self reveal itself. That is why it is called self-realization or God realization. The God will not reveal, because the God knows what is the kind of a heart you have. What kind of thoughts is going on in your mind. See, you're coming because of some ulterior motive. You're not coming out of love. You're not coming out of, oh, my Guruji, I revere him. That's not what you're coming for. You're coming because you want something. You know you will gain something. So everybody comes with a begging bowl alone. So how many do really care about the God? How many do come, God, I want you, I love you? How many say that? You ask yourself, why do we all go to temple? Because we want something. Do you go to temple just because you just want to meet God? No, that has never happened. No, because people go to temple because they want something. They're always in want of something. So that is what you have to overcome. So next he says, derives through meditation. How do you achieve this? By meditation. How do you achieve detachment from the sense objects? Is through meditation. So you have to practice. So one of the method he's teaching here. So if you let your mind meditate and you slowly, practice whatever the method that works for you, then you will be able to make your mind detached. Your mind is not going to get attached even when the senses come in contact with the sense objects. The sattvika joy which dwells in the mind, then that yogi, having completely identified himself through meditation with Brahma, enjoys the eternal bliss. Then what does happen? So he's saying he whose mind remains unattached to sense objects derives through meditation, the sattvika joy. The sattvika joy means sattva, that one which is the blissful state. And that is what you dwell in the mind, which dwells in the mind. But have you ever experienced this state? No. Why? Because your mind is filled with all the muck in life. That is why the purification of heart, the purification of mind, and till the point the surrender unto the lotus feet of the Guru happens, you can't achieve any of this. Let me tell you very, very clearly. The purification of heart and mind is extremely important. And it doesn't take 1 year or 2 years, it takes years, many lifetimes. You have to go through the process under that Guru. You have to meet him every birth of yours. I mean, if you provided you have that human birth, and even he plans to appear in that birth of yours, he finds you and then you continue on the journey. That is why my Guruji will always say, why wait for another life? Why can't you make that as your life goal and achieve it in this life? That God realization, that eternal bliss. Why can't you achieve in this life itself? That is exactly what my Guruji will teach me. And that's exactly what Lord Shri Krishna is telling to Arjuna. And we are that Arjuna in our world as well. So we have to listen and become that. That is most important. So he says, then that yogi, having completely identified himself through meditation. So one of the path, one of the way of achieving this is through meditation, which means you need to have a very good control over mind. See, in the earlier verse, Lord Shri Krishna was talking about controlling your mind. When you have the complete self-control, controlling your mind senses, when you have brought them under your control, then you can focus. Your mind will then focus on meditating upon the self, that is Brahma. And in that blissful state, the bliss of that sattvic, that sattva, the quality of joy, the sattvika joy, which dwells in the mind. The sattvika joy, which is about the goodness, which is always there in the mind. So you have to dwell, you have to enjoy I wouldn't say the word enjoy, I'm sorry. I would rather say you experience. You have to be in one with that state, which dwells in the mind. Then that yogi, having completely identified himself through meditation with Brahma, enjoys the eternal bliss. Yes, he enjoys it. Enjoys not in that sense, but he actually revels in it. He's always in that oneness. He's the enjoy is again a state of mind, but this is, you will see them in that, in being in that blissful state. It's always, and they'll be peaceful, they'll be calm, they just don't have the agitation going on. They're very serene. You can experience some kind of a beautiful energy of love around them oozing at all times. That is what you will experience. So let us continue for chapter 5, verse 22. The pleasures which are born of sense contacts are verily a source of suffering only, though appearing as enjoyable to worldly minded people. Wow, this is very powerful. They have a beginning and an end. They come and go. Arjuna, it is for this reason that a wise man does not indulge in them. So true. See, this is called truth. This is the truth about life. This is the knowledge, the real knowledge. Having this knowledge, you should apply this in your life. That is when you will be able to overcome all the issues that you have, like, being passionate, being attached to everything, being, and where you don't have discrimination at all. All those things is what you will be able to overcome. So let us understand in detail. What is the Lord telling Arjuna here? The pleasures which are born of sense contacts. What does that mean? See, when the pleasure is, when you say, I'll take it as simple as example, you want to eat an ice cream, and then you go to your favorite ice cream parlor, and then you want to eat that ice cream. And when you buy the ice cream, you're so excited, your mind is already prepared, your mouth is watering, everything is ready, your stomach is feeling hungry, all that, you're excited to eat that ice cream. And you just put that first, bite. You take a spoon, you take a first scoop, and you just put it in your mouth. It melts. You'll say, wow, I'm enjoying, and then very little portion of it is left out. So till the last bit you're enjoying. Then what happens after that? That pleasure is over. It's only till a certain point in time. Then what happens? What you ate is finished. It's vanished. So what you thought you're enjoying is over. It's like a marriage. People don't really understand the truth about life, but yet they want to hide their, it's like ostrich mentality. They want to get into that and then believe that it's the most beautiful thing that has happened to them, or they believe that that is what the right thing to do. And when the problem comes in, then they want to run away from it. So let us face the reality. Marriage is like this pleasure in life, you say I'm in love with someone, and you're having that beautiful moment, you're experiencing something nice, it's all a very interesting exciting, all that is happening, right? But imagine that enjoyment, the pleasure of being in love, the pleasure of experiencing. Sorry, I'm going to stop here because there's some noise. Let me start once again. See, in a marriage, we are married, living in that, we live in the la la land, I'll say. Because we have our own dream. We watch movies, romantic, beautiful love stories, and we think life is all about that. But in reality, it's not that. Because two people who are different, completely different, in nature, in qualities, in habits, in way of life, everything come together, and they say they are in love with each other. And this love is a culmination. It's like a pleasure which is going to last only for a certain time. And marriage is also, we say it's an institution. Why? Because the procreation should happen. It's the way of life which the Lord has created. But in that, He's also teaching that it's a choice that you have. Marriage is not always an enjoyable thing. The moment you get married, you're bound. You come into a bondage to eternity. And then you're getting into more karmas. Because why? Then you're going to have children, then you're going to be lost in that. So where is the question of you actually redeeming yourself? There is no way out for you. You're actually gone back into becoming a grihast. One who's a family person, who's going to now follow the path of grihast ashram. Now what happens? That pleasure that you think you enjoyed, in the initial stages of, being in love, everything exists only for a short time. 3 months down the lane, you're going to be at each other's throat. That same excitement, the same amount of love doesn't exist. You know why? Because it's a transaction in the material world. There is no unconditional love. Everything is based on condition. You do this, I do this. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. That is how life works. Relationships are very flimsy because we are talking about human being, and here the love that we are talking about is pleasure. The moment your marriage comes into a culmination, when you have a conjugal relationship, that pleasure is finished. And then what happens? It is your lust which is getting satisfied. You have got married not because of just love. It's about your lusty desires. And the moment that pleasure ends, then that's over. And that relationship is just it's a contractual existence. Okay, now I'm married, I have to live in this relationship. I have no choice because I've made that decision. And some people live are married for 20 years and 25 years, and then they say, okay, now I can't live with this person, I'm going to divorce. So what happened? And through you've lived for 25 years just to get divorced? Wow, I'm amazed. Today, nobody lives in a marriage for a very long time. Everybody's marriage comes to a break point at some point or another. It is very sad. But if you look at the statistics, that's what it shows. Everybody, or most of them say, I live in this marriage because I don't have a choice. I have to live now. I was talking to one of one of my classmates. Now in her case, she said, look, I got married because my family forced me into it. Why? No, I couldn't take a decision like you. At that time, I had to succumb to the family pressure. I got married. But is that called a marriage? Because you're getting married because someone forced you into it, which is sad. And today, this is how the world works. So what is the Lord saying here? Don't run after these pleasures which are born of sense contacts, which are very a source of suffering only. What does that lead to you later? It's a suffering. See, the pleasure becomes painful later. The same marriage turns into a nightmare. the same love becomes hatred. But in the case of the Divine Lord, there is no question of, conditions. There is no question of hatred. It's all about love. It's unconditional love alone. Sorry about that. There was a flight going. Okay, so let us continue. So the pleasure which are born of sense contacts are verily a source of suffering only, though appearing as enjoyable to worldly minded people. How does it appear in the world? People think, oh, you should get married. You look at, your friends, they're all married. You're not married. That's how they look at it. They say, oh, look at her life. He's living in America. They have bought a house now. They have got a car. This is how people look at it. And what is it actually according to Lord Sri Krishna? Please remember, I am not saying any of this. It is the Lord who's teaching Arjuna. He's saying, the pleasures which are born of sense contacts are verily a source of suffering only, though appearing as enjoyable to worldly minded people. How does it appear to the worldly minded people? As enjoyable, but nothing but it's suffering. It's a miserable existence. So my schoolmate was telling me, how beautiful is your life. I wish I had the strength to stand the grounds that you have done. You took a decision. You took the right decision. I genuinely want to be in your place. That was powerful. Because there was a point in time, I had to also undergo, the pressures of marriage, everybody in the society, family, all of them telling, oh, you should get married, you should get married. I just told a very simple thing. Look, I am married to Lord Sri Krishna. I married him. I don't need to marry any physical being on this planet Earth. I don't need to. And I'm complete with myself. So my friend is a Christian. So I was telling her, when you become a nun, you commit your life to Jesus Christ. You accept him as your husband. That's how it is to me. I'm married Lord Sri Krishna. He is my father, mother, brother, everything of everything. He's my boss. He's everything. He's my guru, God. You name it. Now I work and live and serve him alone. I breathe him at all times. It's the most beautiful existence. You don't need another person to live your life with. And this is what I have learned, and it is very powerful. And in that there is no pressure of, you have to report to your husband, your children, or you have to become a slave of your children, or your in-laws, your family, your relatives, you name it. It's too much. And plus you have work pressures. And today, my purpose is, my Swadharma is to serve my Divine Lord's purpose alone. And whatever that he has, carved out the path for me, that's it. It is very beautiful when your life goal is, the goal of the Divine Lord. It's a mission that you're working for. How powerful is that? It's the beautiful thing. Instead of just living for myself, I'm here living for a bigger purpose. And that is to serve the purpose of the Divine Lord. And that is what you need to understand. And when you commit your life for the service of the humankind, then you're serving the Lord alone. In everybody you serve the Lord. Then it is not about selfish things. It's not about pleasure for myself. And in that, you do it with love. And it's a blissful state is what you will experience. Then you're not attached to anything. You're not bound by anything. And then God realization happens on its own. And please remember, you're not going to be suffering. You're not going to be suffering like how people suffer in any relationship, in anything in the material world. Because that's how the material worldly people believe. I stopped. I'll continue 10 more minutes. Who's that? आज इतना डिस्टर्बेंस था.
Restart.
Yeah. So the pleasures which are born of sense contacts are verily a source of suffering only, though appearing as enjoyable to worldly minded people. They have a beginning and an end. They come and go. Arjuna, it is for this reason that a wise man does not indulge in them. So we don't have to indulge in anything. Like I said, it's like eating an ice cream. That pleasure comes and goes. It's only for that moment alone. So nothing is permanent. Do you think you'll retain the taste, or are you retaining that ice cream within yourself to eternity? No. Once you eat, you have to go and excrete it out. Simple as that. What goes in comes out. So there's a beginning and there is an end to it. So anything that is related in the material world, which is connected to enjoying the pleasures of life, what we think, oh, you need to have a happy married life. There's no happy married life ever. Please remember. People live in this hallucination that there is a happy married life. Oh, they are married, they have children, they have a beautiful family. They live in that hallucination. But you talk to each of them, the husband and the wife separately, you will understand how much of suffering they are going through, which you can't see. But they have to portray to the material world. And that is what is the Lord saying? It appears as enjoyable to the worldly minded people. To whom? The worldly minded people. So what is he telling Arjuna? He's telling Arjuna to become wise. Why? Because he says they have a beginning and they have an end, which is the pleasures of the worldly existence. They have a beginning and an end. They come and go. But Arjuna, it is for this reason that the wise man does not indulge in them. So what is he telling? He doesn't indulge in them. So where is the question of you, the Lord telling, no, you should get married, you should go and enjoy everything in this world? He never says that. And that is why he says how the body, the senses move amongst the sense object and the gunas perform in the gunas. So the realized being or the wise man understand this truth. Knowing this, they are completely detached. Whatever the action that the body has to perform, they perform. So they are not going to be bothered about, running after enjoyment in this world, running after the material worldly enjoyments, or running after any of these sense objects. Because please remember, everything has an end. They come, they go, they come and they go. Just imagine tomorrow you win a big lottery. You make $1 billion. Wow, that's like amazing, right? And then what happens? That money is won, you get that money and you don't even know when the money has gone. So what happens? That happiness is gone away. So what was so exciting to you? You enjoyed it, you were so happy, you wanted to go buy different things and you did all of that. And suddenly one day you have lost all that money. Then what happens? You're suffering. You're miserable. It's like that. So the wise man, knowing this truth, the wise man doesn't indulge in that. That is what you have to do. So what is he saying? Don't indulge in that. Don't get attached to that. See, if you have to eat something, eat, finish it, move on. You're not going to be dwelling in that. You're not going to think, oh, I want to eat this, I want to do this, I want to do that. No, you're not going to. And then what happens? When you get into that, the family, the bondage, then you're sucked into it. And then there is no way you get out of it at all. You're so much lost in fulfilling the desires, not just of your wife and everybody else, your children. You're trying to, do whatever it takes to give them the best of the life. So you're going to become a permanent servant to your family. So where is the question of ever getting out of it? You're always in bondage and attachment. And this is what you should not indulge. And this is what Lord Shri Krishna is teaching here. So the next is, he alone who is able to withstand in this very life before casting off with this body the urges of lust and anger is a yogi, and he alone is a happy man. Oh my God, this is very powerful. This is very interesting actually. He alone who is able to withstand in this very life before casting off his body the urges of lust and anger. Why is he specifically saying the urges of lust and anger? See, please remember, lust is a difficult thing to overcome because a man is lusty at all times. He wants to fulfill his crass human animal desire. I want to get married. Why? Because I just want to have a commune. It's about satisfying his lusty pleasures. That's what they do. Marriage is not meant because they're interested in some institution and all that. Everybody has a selfish interest, and that in our world it is about lust. Lust is a bigger driving factor. And today in Kali Yuga, the concept of marriage doesn't exist at all because anybody marries anyone. Today there's no gender. Gender doesn't exist, and you can marry any gender as well. And then what is also happening? You change your partner just like your garments. So where is the question of really love here? There's no love existing. So people are only, fulfilling the urges of their lust. Yeah, one very interesting thing he's talking about is anger. And also please remember, anger is again a doorway to hell. He's going to discuss about anger in the coming chapters. So here he has begun with lust. Lust is the number one. Next comes anger. We have to learn to control the anger. And what did he say? He alone who is able to withstand. Means you are able to withstand. You have to be able to control it. Which means you have to have so much control, that willpower you need to have. In this very life, he is very clear, his words are crystal clear. In this very life, before casting off this body. So if you are able to conquer and overcome the lust in this very life and the anger before casting off this body, means what? Before death strikes you. The urges of lust and anger is a yogi, and he alone is a happy man. And then you become a yogi and you alone are a happy man. Does this ever happen? Everybody falls for lust. Maya is very enticing, so please be very careful. You don't know when lust strikes you. And then what? Anger. You don't know what can instigate a person. This very smallest of the smallest thing. My Guruji was giving a very powerful example this morning. He said some people, they had started some train service of some pilgrimage in India. And in that they were wearing some the people working in the train, like, those who provide food, the waiters and, other staff members, they were wearing an orange color kind of a uniform. But people didn't like it. So that became a big news. Why? Anger. For what reason? It instigated them. They just found it, I don't know what the reason is, but they didn't like it. Why should you get angry? Why should your mind dwell in the as petty thing as that? Can't you not do something better in your life? Your mind should be used to thinking something better. Instead of it, you're getting angry over the most stupidest stuff. And then so they had to change their uniform color, which is very funny to me. Okay, now you think, oh, what is there to get angry about it? Why should it become a headline news? So this is what Lord Shri Krishna is teaching, that in this very life, if you can withstand the urges of the lust and anger, in this very life, very clear, he's not talking about some other life, in this very life, before casting of this body, before death strikes you. And then you become a yogi and you're a wise man. How powerful is that? It's very simple, but do we even attain this? No. You don't know what can trigger that anger and when it can trigger. It could be as stupid as it. And that is why my Krishna Guruji will always say, you need to always be aware. Always be in oneness with the Divine Lord. Always have self-control. Never react to things. Even in the worst situation, don't get angry. So that's very powerful verse. Do not get angry even on provocation. Why should we let our cool go away? See, only in the perfect composure of mind can you solve even the greatest of the problem. And actually, when you go to the root, the genesis, you will be able to understand that it's very simple. You can actually solve anything. You don't have to fight. You just have to have that calmness, that composure within yourself. And that time you will be able to see everything in a different perspective. And that is why when in anger, don't speak. Because you might say things that you might repent, that you might regret. So overcome this anger. Instead of overcoming, what is he saying? Withstand and never react. Never show that you're so angry or upset and all that. It's not required. And then you become a yogi and a wise man. So this is the truth about what Lord Shri Krishna is teaching. See, it's very powerful. And one very important lesson, see, you need to understand, we don't know when death will strike us. We think we have all the time in the life in this world that we will practice it at some point. We'll say, now is not my age. Now is my time to enjoy. I have to become lusty in life. I have to get married. I have to do all sorts of nonsensical things. Become, come into bondage. Become bound by all the things. It's going to only pull you down. It's never going to help you get out. So what is he saying? Withstand. The ability to withstand is there within you. Why? Because that will is the divine will. And you need to empower yourself to do that. So I hope you understood today's lesson. We will stop here and we will continue from verse 24 onwards in our next satsang. Thank you for joining the Bhagavad Gita satsang, the way of life as described by Lord Shri Krishna to Arjuna. Om Shri Mahaganapate Namaha, Om Shri Gurudev Datta, Om Shri Sachidananda Sadguru Sainath Maharaj Ki Jai, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Digambara Digambara, Shripad Vallabha Digambara, Om Shri Krishna Guru Nathanata, Shri Guruve Namaha, Om Devi Durgaya Namaha, Om Shri Krishna Arpanam Namastu, Krishnam Vande Jagadguru.